Before a Scandinavian ship earned silver abroad, a farm had already paid its costs. The payment came through timber, iron, wool, food, animals, and human time. Coin mattered, but expeditions began inside economies where wealth often remained material. A vessel represented concentrated production gathered from fields, forests, workshops, and households. This system makes the farm, not the warrior, our central unit. Most rural sites were not identical, and their obligations changed by region. Some households controlled broad estates, while others held precarious dependent positions. Enslaved people also worked within Scandinavian farming, though their individual lives remain poorly recorded. Expedition finance, therefore, rested upon hierarchy as much as agricultural surplus. Start with the hull, whose planks required suitable mature trees. Felling, splitting, shaping, transporting, and assembling timber demanded experienced coordinated labor. Iron rivets and tools connected the farm economy with specialized smithing. Tar or related treatments helped protect materials, adding woodland production to construction. Large ships could exceed what one modest household supplied alone. Powerful patrons mobilized contributions through lordship, alliance, gift exchange, or obligation. Archaeological ships reveal technical investment, but rarely identify every contributor. The Scandinavian vessels, sunk near Roskilde later in the Viking Age, show distinct functions. Their timbers include cargo ships and warships rather than one universal type. Tree ring analysis can sometimes locate timber origins and narrow construction dates. It cannot name the laborers or disclose the agreement financing their work. Sales shifted the burden from forest to pasture and textile production. Wool began with sheep requiring grazing, winter fodder, shearing, and care. Fibers then needed sorting, cleaning, spinning, weaving, and finishing. Experimental estimates demonstrate enormous workloads, though exact historical totals remain uncertain. Much of this textile labor was probably performed within households, often by women. That contribution rarely appears in chronicles centered upon raids and rulers. A sale converted accumulated rural labor into speed and range. Its value continued through patching, drying, storage, and replacement. Rope likewise required prepared fibers and skilled manufacture before departure. Nothing about wind power made the underlying energy free. Crews had to eat while producing no harvest at sea. Grain, flour, dried fish, dairy products, and meat could support journeys differently. Preservation depended upon season, climate, vessel space, and intended duration. Water containers competed with cargo and equipment inside limited hull volume. Livestock accompanied some settlement voyages, creating further demands for fodder and handling. Atlantic colonization therefore drew more deeply upon farm resources than a short campaign. The costs varied because Viking expeditions served radically different purposes. A raid sought portable wealth and perhaps captives under severe time pressure. A trading voyage reserved capacity for goods expected to return profit. Migration required tools, seed, animals, household members, and plans beyond one season. Royal fleets could draw supplies through political authority unavailable to independent crews. Using one financing model for every voyage would misread the evidence. Farms also produced export goods that entered commercial exchange. Hides, wool, textiles, iron, whetstones, and foodstuffs moved through regional networks. Some products came from specialized districts before reaching maritime markets. Foreign coins found rurally may represent trade, payment, gifts, or stored silver. Their presence proves connection more readily than direct participation overseas. Silver could be weighed, cut, recast, displayed, or buried. Its flexibility helped translate expedition returns into local power. Yet a hoard is deposited wealth, not a complete household account. Archaeologists reconstruct rural capacity through buildings, animal bones, tools, and plant remains. Longhouses joined residence, storage, craft, and agricultural organization in varying ways. Buyer space may indicate livestock management, but estimates depend upon preservation and interpretation. Charred grains identify crops while revealing only a fraction of consumption. Pollen and landscape evidence can show clearance, cultivation, and grazing over time. None of these methods produces a surviving expedition budget. Together, they expose the productive base missing from written descriptions. Elite estates could gather rents, hospitality, and labor from dependent communities. Feasting redistributed food while advertising the host's ability to sustain followers. Weapons and ships attracted attention, but continued loyalty required repeated material support. Gift exchange converted overseas valuables into relationships at home. A silver arm ring might reward service, display status, or become bullion later. Returns were therefore political capital as well as private profit. Successful expeditions could strengthen patrons who commanded future resources. Failure left farms carrying costs without the expected silver, land, or prestige. Sources seldom record those losses from the household perspective. Later sagas describe preparations and property disputes with literary shaping. They may preserve plausible social practices without serving as contemporary accounts. Frankish and English annals notice fleets mainly when those fleets threaten others. Such texts illuminate outcomes abroad while obscuring production in Scandinavia. Runestones occasionally commemorate people who traveled or died overseas. They reveal family claims and memory, not comprehensive crew recruitment. Financing system must therefore be assembled from mismatched evidence. That mosaic points consistently back toward stored harvests and organized labor. Seasonal timing connected agriculture directly with campaigning possibilities. Sailing away removed working hands from planting, haymaking, harvest, or winter preparation. Households remaining behind absorbed tasks and risks created by absence. Expeditions could exploit quieter agricultural periods, but calendars differed across activities. Long absences made labor substitution essential rather than convenient. Dependents, relatives, tenants, women, and enslaved workers sustained production during voyages. Calling the traveler a self-financed adventurer hides this distributed cost. Participation probably ranged from voluntary investment to imposed service. Political scale changed the mechanism without severing its rural foundation. Early leaders relied on personal networks and regionally concentrated resources. Later kings could command levies, dues, fortified centers, and larger logistical systems. The growth of towns added craftspeople and markets to expedition support. Even then, towns depended upon food and raw materials from surrounding countrysides. Farms themselves also gained unevenly from overseas connections. Imported objects reached rural settlements, and silver could settle obligations locally. New wealth may have widened differences between commanding estates and vulnerable households. Captives brought back to Scandinavia could be forced into agricultural labor. This feedback turned violent mobility into additional productive capacity for owners. It does establish that expedition wealth and rural inequality interacted. The economic engine was neither purely commercial nor merely subsistence farming. Households produced necessities, patrons assembled surpluses, and voyages pursued uncertain returns. Every repaired sail and stored ration represented opportunities surrendered elsewhere. That is why farm finance explains both expansion and its social limits. Only communities with resources, organization, and labor could sustain repeated departures. The celebrated ship was the visible edge of an inland balance sheet. Viking expeditions began when unequal rural production was converted into maritime possibility.